guitar people? Welcome to Have Guitar Will Travel, presented by Vintage Guitar Magazine. With your host, me, James Patrick Regan, otherwise known as Jimmy from the Deadlies. And today I'm speaking with singer-guitarist Paul Thorn. In our conversation, Paul discusses his favorite guitar, the Telecaster. Paul tells us about his hometown, Tupelo, Mississippi, and growing up in the Pentecostal church and community where secular music wasn't allowed. Paul talks about his new album, Life is Just a Vapor, which comes out on February 21st, and tells us about two of the guest guitarists that play on the album, Dickinson and Joe Bonamassa, and the deal he made with Joe to get him to play on the album. Paul discusses his first concert he ever attended. It was when he opened for Sting in Nashville. Paul talks gear, Gibsons, Fenders, Ovations, carbon fiber, and Johnny Gray. To find out everything you wanted about Paul, you can go to his website, paulthorn.com. That's PAULTHORN.com. Please subscribe, like, comment, share, and most of all, review this podcast. I'd really appreciate it. And please support Vintage Guitar Magazine and all the wonderful things they do for us guitar players, because they do so many wonderful things for us guitar players. Here's my friend Paul.
Hey, what's happening?
How are you, Paul?
Feel good. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking.
Good.
I love the new album.
Man, thank you. I appreciate it.
It's good old rock and roll.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. I'm real proud of it.
Yeah. When I was listening to it, the first thing I think is, gosh, I wish I was playing this stuff.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you a musician too?
I play guitar.
Okay. What's your favorite guitar?
It's a loaded question. I play like thin line Telecasters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like every kind of guitar.
I like Telecaster's my main electric.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
You can't beat a Telecaster, man.
No, you
really can't.
You can't.
You can play them, or you can hit somebody with one.
Well, sure.
They don't break when you hit somebody.
Well. So, how did you end up in a music career?
Well, I grew up the son of a Pentecostal minister, so I grew up singing in church.
All right.
That's where I grew up in Tupelo, Mississippi, same town that Elvis grew up in, and wow. I actually went to a lot of the same churches that Elvis went to.
Did you really?
So I have that. Yeah. So I got that. I started out playing. I call it it was almost like rockabilly gospel when I was growing up.
Okay.
It was like stuff like I saw the light.
Sure.
Saw that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Did they have full bands in your churches?
Well, full band by the definition of our church was this: if you had an acoustic guitar under your mattress at home, under your bed, you could bring it to church and sit on the front pew, and whether you could play or not, you could play.
Wow.
Yeah, anybody could bring their instrument, and it wasn't always necessarily good, but it felt good.
Sure. And did you go see bands when you were growing up, apart from church?
We were not allowed to go to secular concerts.
Oh, okay.
It was the very first concert I ever attended in my life was when I opened for Sting.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
In Nashville.
Wow.
Yeah. I never had even been to a concert. Yeah.
What about your own stuff? What had you've been playing before that? Certainly.
What now?
You were making your own music before you opened for Sting, obviously.
Yeah, I had built up a big catalog of songs that got discovered, and I got a record deal and wound up getting to do a tour with Sting. Yeah.
Wow. But how does that happen? Like how do you go from just writing songs to opening for Sting?
Well, I was working at here's what I was doing, and I was working at a furniture factory. I was a professional boxer, and I played and wrote songs all at the same time. And over the years, I built a big catalog of songs, and like anybody, I was sending out cassette tapes trying to get noticed.
Yeah.
And Miles Copeland, who was the manager of Sting and the Police,
sure,
and he was Stuart Copeland's brother,
yeah,
got a cassette of me and my songs. and literally came down to Tupelo and saw me playing in a pizza restaurant. and and when I took a break from playing, this guy came up to me, and it was him, and he told me that he really liked my music and asked me did I want to get a record deal and get a publishing deal.
Yeah.
And so within 2 weeks, I quit my day job, and I got a record deal. And not long after that, I got this slot as the opening act for Sting.
Wow.
And I had no band; it was just me and my acoustic guitar.
Wow.
But I went out there and I did my show, and people liked it.
Yeah.
And it went so well that when I got through doing all the shows with Sting, this other guy named Jeff Beck was looking for an opening act, and he had heard about me.
Okay.
So I got right after the Sting thing, I got a tour opening up for Jeff Beck.
Wow.
And it went great. I did about 2 months opening up for Jeff Beck, and I know it sounds like an odd matchup, but it was such a odd matchup that people really liked it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the word got out that there was this guy who could entertain a crowd with just a guitar.
Yeah.
And that's actually appealing to a lot of bigger artists because it's less work.
Sure.
They don't have to drag a band on and off the stage. I could just go out there with one guitar and hold the crowd's attention. And so that just led to a snowball of opening acts that I got. I got to tour with Mark Knopfler, Bonnie Raitt, and oddly I did a tour with Toby Keith.
Yeah.
And even though when I did those shows, I was not what the people actually came to see.
Sure.
It went so well that, say, if I played Nashville with Sting, I could come back 6 months later and do my own show. And some of those people that saw me with Sting came back to see me do my own thing.
Damn straight.
So my career started out on the riding on the back of these bigger artists, and and to this day, if there's somebody got more juice than me, I'll be glad to go out there and open for them, and because it's built me. I have a career.
Yeah.
I'm not a household name, but I can go just about anywhere, and people show up.
Right on. So, what kind of places are you playing? Like when you're out touring?
Mostly theaters.
Okay.
Theaters. I really like theaters the best.
Sure.
I actually like theaters better than I do festivals.
Yeah.
Because when you're at a festival, it's a whole different thing. Half people are listening, half of them are not.
Yeah, yeah.
But when you play in a big theater, you got them, man. And they've come to sit down and see a show.
Yeah.
And that's the environment I most like to be in, because I'm very personable. I talk to the crowd, and I'm very involved with the crowd, and it's easier to get that in a theater setting than it is a festival setting.
Oh yeah, for sure. What kind of acoustic guitar was it that you were playing back then?
It was a Gibson Hummingbird.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it your first guitar, or did you have the other guitars before that one?
No. My first guitar was a Glenn Campbell Ovation.
Oh yeah.
Man, when I got that thing, there was a time when Ovation was the hot thing.
Oh yeah.
And everybody wanted an Ovation because Glenn Campbell played one.
Roy Clark. Roy Clark played one.
Roy Clark played one, and they're people. A lot of people make fun of them, but they are good guitars. They're just but I still actually have that guitar.
Right on.
I still got it, Glenn Campbell, and but yeah, it was a cool guitar at its time.
Sure. And how'd you come by the Gibson Hummingbird?
Well, the way I got the Gibson Hummingbird was I believe my dad got it at a pawn shop.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And what do you play now? What are you playing for guitars right now?
Well, I have a 1983 Fender Telecaster.
Okay.
And and I have. I know people are gonna go thumbs down when I say this, but I've got this a composite acoustic guitar made out of graphite, carbon fiber,
Yeah.
and when you plug that thing in, it'll stand up with anything. Now, if you play it without plugging it in, it sounds like a graphite guitar.
Sure.
But if you plug that thing in, it'll stand up against anything. And they also, the reason I like it on the road is it never goes out of tune.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like a wooden guitar.
Yeah.
It changes, and you always having to tune it. Man, I tune that thing at the beginning of the show, and I don't have to touch it again. It's in perfect tune.
Yeah.
And the one I have, it was a company that went out of business.
Rain Song?
No, they were called Composite Acoustic.
Oh, wow.
And the brand was Composite Acoustic. I've got two of them.
Uh-huh.
And they're for a road guitar, they're perfect.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm playing right now.
Okay.
But I've actually got a luthier building me one right now.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah.
Who's the luthier?
His name is Johnny Gray, and he makes replicas of 1930s Martin Dreadnought guitars.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if they were good or not until I found out that Del McCurry plays one.
Uh-huh.
And Dale said it's the best thing he's ever played, and that's saying a lot coming from him.
Yeah, where are they out of?
He's out of somewhere in Kentucky.
Yeah,
But
I think I know.
I haven't actually gotten it yet, but everybody says this guy is he's an undiscovered great luthier.
Yeah. What are you using for amplifiers?
We don't use amps.
Oh.
Everything is in ears on the stage
Uh-huh.
with our band, and because there's no amps on the stage, there's no noise on the stage.
Yeah.
And nothing's bleeding into anything else.
Yeah.
Because of that, with the sound guy I've got and the technology of in-ears, it's our sound out front is incredible.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not just saying that because it's my band.
Yeah.
But it sounds really good. And the other thing is our band, when we're playing, it's not very loud either. It doesn't pierce your ears. You can hear every instrument. You can hear every part separately.
Yeah.
And you can't get that as good when you got a bunch of amps on the stage.
Okay.
And a lot of our amps are just little boxes about that big.
Sure.
But man, they replicate the sound of anything you can think of so closely now that unless you're, a genius at telling the difference, you can't tell the difference.
Yeah. How'd you come across Chris Simmons?
Well, my other guitar player, he retired, and I played a festival somewhere, and Chris Simmons was playing in a band, and he was Leon Russell's guitar player for a long time. And when Leon passed away, he didn't have a substantial gig, and we auditioned him with a bunch of other guys, and he stood out. And boy, he's a real godsend in this band. He's fun to travel with. He's a nice guy, and he plays
fantastically.
Really great.
Yeah. Are you based in Mississippi now, or are you based in Nashville?
I live in Tupelo, Mississippi. That's where I'm talking to you from right now.
Right on. And how has Tupelo changed over the years?
The Pizza Hut needs a new roof.
Uh-huh.
Everybody. It's like any place. Everything's just a little bit tore down.
Yeah.
But it's a great town. I love Tupelo, and of course, it's where Elvis Presley was born.
Yeah. Yep.
That's every town seems to have a little claim to something.
Yeah.
But that's a big one there.
Sure is.
Yeah.
Who were your guys? We've mentioned Elvis a few times, but who were your guys when you were growing up? Like, who were you listening to?
Well, we weren't allowed to listen to secular music much.
Okay.
But I did listen to the radio some,
Uh-huh.
and but really my influence are people really you've probably never heard of. Those old people that used to get up in church, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
and they would sing gospel songs, but it sounded like rockabilly.
Yeah, yeah.
My influence is the people I was playing with at church.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just old guys that had, and the one thing about living in the country, when you go to a church, some of the guitars they bring in that they've had under their mattress, under their bed. I mean, you might, one guy might be sitting there playing a vintage Gretsch White Falcon,
Yeah.
and the next one's got a J200, and this guy over here, he's got a 1930 Martin. They all got these fantastic guitars, and half of them can't play their way out of a paper sack, but it was something charming about everybody bringing their instruments.
Yeah.
And you could play, and it wasn't like church now where you have to audition to play.
Sure.
It wasn't like that. If you had a guitar, if you had a set of drums, you could bring it.
Uh-huh.
And that was where I got my musical influence.
Right on. Right on. And anybody inspire you these days?
Yeah, well, a lot of people do.
Okay.
There's a group I really like a lot that they're not really a household name, but they're a band I really like. They're called Delamitri.
Uh-huh.
Have you heard of them?
I have, yeah.
I like them a lot. They're a rock band, but their songwriting is really good, and they're just an incredible band. And they had a couple minor hits in the '90s, but I'm just a fan of them. You know.
Right on. And when did you decide to you get a band rather than just playing solo?
Well, when I got my record, when I told you I got the Sting opening gig,
Yeah.
I didn't have a band. So somewhere after all that got going, they decided that I needed a band, and so we just it just kind of happened. I don't even know how it happened. we just knew some guys that wanted to play, and the thing about I'm proud to say about having my band is everybody that's been in my band, like my drummer's been with me for 27 years.
Wow.
And my keyboard player's been with me for over 20.
Wow.
And people, for whatever reason, when people get in this, they stay.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for that. But we choose very carefully who we play with. It's not enough to just be a good player. You've got to be somebody that's can mesh well.
Sure.
In a traveling situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And you ever have any trouble with like the bar owners or the venue owners, or do they know your history as a boxer?
No, I don't. Well, luckily, I don't hardly play bars anymore.
Uh-huh.
It's a rare thing when I play a bar. We mostly try to play in theaters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. I get along with everybody.
All right.
I get along with everybody.
Right on.
And I haven't never had a cross word really with anybody. I don't.
Yeah.
If somebody is giving me a bad vibe, I just get away from them.
Sure. Makes sense. Yeah. And when you're recording, do you use live amps or are you using the box for that too?
We do use amps in the studio, yes, because in the studio you can isolate everything.
Sure.
So yeah, we use amps.
Is there any kind of amp that you prefer? Because your studio sound is great. Your guitar.
Have you heard the new record?
I have heard the new record, and the guitars sound fantastic.
Yeah, man. It's like on this last record, I only played on one song, and that was the acoustic song because I'm a good rhythm player.
Yeah.
But but I can't. I'm not a lead guy.
Yeah.
And the guys in my band, frankly, they're better guitar players than me.
Sure.
And so when it comes to time to record, I step back. I write the songs and I sing.
Yeah.
But the guys that play are just fantastic. And I had a couple guests on this record. One guitar player, Luther Dickinson from the North Mississippi All-Stars.
Yeah, of course.
And I also, Joe Bonamassa played on one of the tracks.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, and I called Joe and asked him how much he would charge me to play on my record, and he paused for a long time. Then he said, "How about 2 Diet Cokes?" And so I still owe him 2 Diet Cokes. But what I'm hoping that this record will blow up.
Yeah.
And I'll be able to afford a whole 6-pack.